I just used to think every time I was off the pitch and I was thinking about the game Saturday, I would just think about running that move in my mind. If I knew, say, I was a 13, I was going to run that short line, I'd sit there in the change rooms or whatever, just thinking of myself hitting that line, making that break, and then offloading or scoring that try.
Welcome to the Upside Strength Podcast, your number one fitness and performance resource in Switzerland. Today, I'm happy to welcome former professional rugby player, personal trainer, and rugby coach, Ben John. Hey, Ben, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, mate, thanks for inviting me on. When you messaged me, I was run to my missus and I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I feel honored to come on. You've had so many amazing guests. So thank you. Thanks, mate.
No, it's great to have you on. So for people who don't know you yet, can you talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm currently a PT and a rugby coach. But then, that's 2 years old. Before that, I was a professional rugby player. I retired. So I played my last game when I was 26, retired 27. And I played 10 years with a team in Wales called Ospreys.
Do you have one moment that stands out for you in your professional rugby career? Kind of a best memory as a pro player?
So we used to have a day in the Welsh rugby called Judgment Day, and that was all the four regions play in Millennium Stadium, all in one day, in one afternoon. And it was awesome to run out in front of like 55,000. It was amazing. That was probably the best. And if you haven't been to Cardiff either, the nightlife after, literally the stadium is literally on the main strip in Cardiff. So it was a good night after because we won as well. So it was a great day altogether.
What position do you play, or did you play?
I played 13 and wing, but mostly 13. That was my favorite position.
Did you get to second set outside center pretty quickly in your playing career from being a kid, or did you kind of move there over time?
Yeah, so literally as a kid, 13, all my life really. I loved it. I used to play for a local team, Lacha they were called, and we had a very good 10. Was my good mate, and he just used to pick a line off him, and he used to put me in the space. And I loved it just because you had the freedom to pick a line. And I'm not the quickest off the mark, so I used to try and spend an extra 10 meters then to get a little bit quicker and then hit that ball at pace then. So I've always been 13. Yeah, and I've always been my favorite position.
For maybe all the players or the coaches that listen and maybe don't have a lot of experience playing that position, can you talk about the specifics of it, like the intricacies? What is more complicated than other things as an outside center?
Yeah, so outside center is mostly the defensive side of the outside center is the difficult part, is reading there's a lot of plays are done on that 13 channel, and that is the wingers coming out the back or the 15s coming short or the 12s fading out. So the main thing is the 13 would usually be the defensive captain in the backs, and but other than that, you've got a lot more space as well to hit that overs line to get on the outside. And it's kind of a mixture of being the playmaker to get the ball to the faster guys, and as well creating a dent in the defense, getting through the line so then we can get in the front foot. So it's just that mixture, whereas the 12 is a lot more of the typical back, like hitting the lines or just feeding the ball, whereas the 13 has got a little bit of space to bit a move as well. So that's why I used to prefer that position, because I'm tall, but I wasn't the heaviest at all. So I used to like using my reach and my running angles to help me with my playing.
So you played for almost a decade with the Ospreys. Let's talk about defense for a little bit. How did the defense strategy evolve or change throughout those years, or did it stay fairly similar? And what was it? What was the philosophy around defense? How was it organized? Who was leading the show in the backs?
Yeah, so when I first came into the academy and then into the one or two first years of the Ospreys, we had a coach, Sean Hawley, and he was all about getting off the line as fast as you can, blitz it, make organized chaos, just literally shut that space down. And then you all had literally a channel, and that was your channel. Anyone that comes into your channel, you are absolutely blitzing. It doesn't matter if they've got the ball or whatnot, you just shut them down. And then as I got older, then we had a defense coach come in called Brad Davis, and with the Sean Hawley blitz, who's literally watch the defender, whoever comes in that channel is getting hit. Whereas Brad Davis taught us to watch the ball. So we would all come up in the line. So it would be a bit of line speed, but not as much, not as aggressive. But we'd all come up in the line and we'd watch the ball and we'd stay square, watch the ball, and we'd read the pass. And we'd make a decision on that pass, whether we jam or we go out. And there's a lot more communication, but it was something I was new to, watching the ball, because, it feels so weird all my life just been thinking, right, whoever's looking in this channel here, got the blinkers on, I'm just cleaning out. Whereas watching the ball, it kind of helped me as a 13 as well, because what I didn't realize is when you watch the ball, you obviously think you won't be able to see anything that's going on here. But the peripheral vision, you learn to be able to watch the ball and just see everyone moving in front of you. Mm-hmm. And you can make the decision of the flight of the ball, where it's going, and whether you can intercept and whether you can then bring a bit of speed onto the defense. So it took a couple of sessions to get used to it, but I felt as if it helped my game a lot, because as I said before, I wasn't that quick off the mark, so I used to kind of like to give myself a little bit of time so I can just try and move a little bit quicker rather than literally react flying off the line at like a blitz would and just creaming someone. I like to have a little bit of time to move and make a decision rather than rely on my turn or whatnot. So, it was interesting having the two different sides. A lot of people preferred watching the ball. A lot of people preferred watching the man. But yeah, myself, I love watching the ball. And one of my recent posts on social media was talking about that and just talking about who prefers what. There's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what your defensive setup is. And because I know you're involved with a rugby team. What's your protocols?
I'm not involved with the rugby side of things. I'm just taking care of physical preparation. So okay. I played back in the day, but I don't pretend to be a rugby coach or know how to deal with the technical, tactical stuff as well. At least not nearly as well as the coaches that we have. So I'll let them take care of that. But it's always interesting to hear about, different philosophies of defending, because we always talk about the offense, but at least at our level, we spend a bit of time on defense, but I feel like it's not as organized as it could be. And then maybe a follow-up question on what you mentioned about the kind of changing the philosophy of defense and what you were looking at. Do you feel like looking at the ball would have been as beneficial if you had to do it right from the start and never learned to kind of anticipate and know what the players were going to do, in the offense on the other side? Because you did those few years where you always looked at the man and you always moved forward for the people that were in front of you. And so I'm sure that when you switched to looking at the ball, now you already had a good idea of where the guys were and what the options were for their runs, so that, like you said, peripheral vision helps, but you also had a lot of game time and experience, and that plays a big role. Do you feel like looking at the ball would have been the good solution for you right from day one, or was it a good kind of transition after you've learned to read offensive running lines?
Yeah, I think what the both ideas of looking at the ball and looking at the man, I think they complemented that movement or that defensive setup. For example, if I do look at the ball, I have to spend a little bit more time like not second guessing, but taking a little bit more time out of my speed to make a decision. Whereas if I'm just looking at the man, I know for well, I'm just going flat out at him. I know there's a guy inside me and a guy outside me who's going to do the same role. And they're not going to get outside us because we're going to have so much line speed. So we all just take someone. So I think if I integrated looking at the ball in that setup, then I think I would have been off the mark a little bit. And then as a 13, then I would have probably allowed them to get outside us. Whereas I think it suited that system. Whereas I did enjoy watching the ball a lot more in this sort of system. Just because I can make a decision. As a 13, it's a little bit easier to get the person out the back or jam in when needs to be. So I think that the system suited the structure of watching the ball, watching the player. But again, it's just my preference of hopefully I answer that question. I think it suits that system rather than trying to integrate them.
That makes sense. So talking about offense now a little bit, I'm interested in, especially at the level that you played at with the Ospreys, the proportion of set moves that you guys would play. So like rehearse, where you call like I don't know, back in the day we had a low move. So it was what was it? 10 fake cross with 12 and then cross with the inside the winger. That was always a good one. But the proportion of, kind of set rehearse moves to just kind of improv on the field, reading what's in front of you and adjusting accordingly. If you had to, like off the top of your head, was it like a 50-50 split? Half the time you ran kind of rehearsed moves, half the time it was, what the 10 saw or what you saw and you just called something. How does that work at the professional level?
Yeah, we did spend a lot of time on set plays of running those patterns. But then we did also spend time once you learn that pattern and you learn the basics of the pattern, for example, like a simple switch and the timing of that, then that can go anywhere in the game. Whereas the more complicated ones, you stick to the set piece because you have a second, like a game of chess or like a game of snooker. You plan 2-3 phases ahead. But yeah, you kind of get the base moves, and then those moves then can integrate then into phase play. So, for example, we used to have a move called block, which is probably a standard move. And then when the winger came, then it would be a block tune. So the winger is out the back. So that move can be set off scrum, and we run that really well. But then if there's a ruck, I always used to find I used to work a lot better off rucks and whatnot, playing on a wing sometimes, because I'd be looking for the forwards, be looking for the people who are tired and trying to get inside their shoulder and whatnot. Whereas a set play, the defense is set. They've kind of seen the shape before because we do so much analysis. You can kind of understand what the picture is by the people's starting positions. But yeah, we used to practice it a lot. As my career went on, we started practicing open play and phase play from rucks a lot more, rather than just set piece, because the amount of scrums went down to when I first came through, because it was all about scrums and winning the scrum and winning the penalty. Whereas as I started getting older, it was a little bit less set piece.
What's the most phases that were planned ahead on, say, a set move off a set piece? Did you have really long kind of rehearsed phase plays that you would kind of implement to get to a specific spot on the field, maybe, or in a specific situation on kickoff or something like that?
Yes. So we would, for example, we would say, say if we're in trouble, we would say get to the touchline, and then depending on how many phases it would take us to get to that touchline, then so be it. But from a set piece, we used to have obviously a set play where a back would hit up, and then we'd have forwards come around the corner, and then probably about 2 to 3 phases. Usually, shit hits the fan anyway, and then you just try and get into your systems, so you kind of understand where you are on the pitch and where you need to be, whether the center's split, and you try and have two ball players either side of the ruck and that sort of thing. And once you're in that system, then you can kind of understand where you need to be. So it's kind of hard to plan too many phases ahead, probably 2 to 3 max, just because as you know, it just anything can happen. Or you'd always want to play to make a line break anyway, and go from there. But 2 to 3 phases would probably be the most. I did hear actually when a couple of guys were with the Wales International once, they had a move which was like 7 phases, which is mad. So I can't imagine practicing now. We couldn't get through 2 phases in training, so 7 phases, yeah.
Yeah, you need such good coordination, between the players and timing of the runs and placement on the pitch and thinking ahead of where you have to be next. And that's a ton of work, and we don't realize at the high level that you played at, or like you said, even at international level, how much of that goes into the game. It's not just guys running straight. There's so much going on off the ball, right? There's the person with the ball, but then there's 14 guys that are constantly readjusting to get into the right position, whether it's for that move or where that might go, or the next one, or even sometimes the one after that.
Yeah, that's the biggest part of it is what everyone obviously the cameras on TV follow the ball, but it's what people do off the ball that creates the space. So as I mentioned before, it's we might not call a play for five, six, seven phases. But what we do is we plan, for example, I would move out to the wing or try and move somewhere else or try and drag a flanker out with me to know, right, in five phases time, and we might get the ball, we've created an overlap. So it's just, yeah, thinking ahead and thinking how you can manipulate the defense by your movement. Sometimes, 80% of the time, just chucking a number out there, you might not get the ball. But what you've done is influence the defense. You've spread them out a little bit. The 10 has had to turn and look at you and think, oh shit, somebody's out wide. So that cause effect is that he's trying to pull people out, and then next thing you know, the scrum half dummied and gone through. But again, the scrum half will get the credit because he made a line break, but the players in the outside channel or someone around the ball has moved and created that space for them. So yeah, I don't think people understand that, especially if when you watch TV, it's everything focused on the player rather than the bigger picture. And that's why I love going to the games or seeing like analysis of the full picture, is seeing the cause and effect of the outside players. And yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6 phases time. And that's why the top teams are so good, because not only they're good on the ball, but they're so good off the ball, and they can manipulate defenses by, just by their movement.
Do you have, off the top of your head, can you think of maybe a moment, whether it's a game or a point in time, that was really tough for you in your professional career?
Yes. So I retired young. As I said, my last game was 26, and I had my last 2 years of playing, and I had concussion problems, issues with the concussion. So I retired in the end for concussion, and it was tough because, well, I always kind of feel sometimes embarrassed about talking about this because it was my own fault as well. But I've learned a lot from it, and from the experience I've learned, I've kind of grown as a person. And I was lucky as well. I came out of rugby healthy as well. So I'm 2 years down the line now, and I've hopefully fully recovered. But yeah, I had a few issues with concussion. I had a knock to the head, and I didn't say anything about it. Because I had my eyes set on a goal, and the goal was, well, when you're in that environment, like the goal is everything. You disregard your health, and I got caught in that trap of, everything I wanted was the goal, and I set myself a goal at the beginning of the season, and nothing was going to take it away from me. Because before that, I was injured all the time. I'd play a couple of games, I'd get injured, and it was getting frustrating. So I thought, right, this is my time. I'm going to push it. And then, I got a knock to the head, and I didn't get knocked out. So I just got a bit sparked. I got up, carried on properly, perfectly fine. Obviously, the physios didn't see it because I was just getting up and running, and I didn't say anything. And then I carried on playing week in, week out. And then my symptoms got a lot worse and worse and worse as the weeks got on. There was times where literally I was playing on a Saturday, and by Thursday, I was still having headaches. And I was struggling with light. I had to wear glasses to like drive the car in the evening and stuff like that, sunglasses. And it got to a point where I run on the pitch, and my vision went quite blurry, and I just kind of came off the pitch, broke down to the physio and just said, I'm really struggling with concussion symptoms. I didn't say anything, and I'm sorry, and I apologized. And he just said, it's fine, we just need to sort you out and look after you. And then as soon as I said that, I had all the healthcare I could get and just sorted it all out. But kind of after that, then that was about 4 years ago. And then I just felt as if I couldn't fully recover from that. I passed all the tests and everything. I felt fine. And then I played my first game 6 months post after I spoke about it. I recovered in 6 months, had all the tests, passed all the SCAT tests. And then I think it was in 2 games time, I got knocked out again. It was something totally unlucky. I went to, what did I do? I think I just whiplash. I hit my head on the floor, just something I didn't train for. And then that took me another 2 months out to recover from that. And at the time I was still seeing specialists. And then I came back. I was out in South Africa then. I got knocked out in the first 10 minutes of that game. Beforehand as well, this one was frustrating because beforehand I worked with a defense coach trying to practice my technique, trying to how I can go chest to chest and tackle up tall and try and avoid getting in the wrong position for a tackle to protect myself slightly because I was I'll be honest, I was reckless as a player. I would just dive in and it's a bit reckless. So I put my body on the line, we'll say that. And yeah, I came across, somebody hit the line and I thought, right, if I don't get there in time because the gap was a little bit big, if I don't get there, he's going to go through. So I just dived in front of him, came across the tackle. My head hit his hip, so his hip bone, and it just knocked me out. Yeah, and that was a tough one because I thought that would be my last shot. And before that, I kind of didn't have anything. I did have my qualifications, but I didn't have anything clearly to fall back on or like a true direction. So traveling back from South Africa as well, which was a long trip, I was kind of like in a dark place. And then I spoke then to the specialist. It was a couple of months later. And I was like, well, I'm going to give it one more shot. I feel as if I'm fully recovered and passing all the tests. And then in that time, then I kind of worked out with my wife as well. If anything does happen, I've got something on the side just in case. So I was like, right, I'm going to have one more shot. I'm going to give it a go. And at that time, it was quite tough as well because my wife kind of didn't like watching me play either. So she kind of just said, you go and play. I'll just do my own thing. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I played a couple of games, played well. I was, really confident, feeling good. And then it was Boxing Day then, and it was my wife's birthday as well. And she decided to come and watch the game. And it was the local derby as well. So we played against the Scarlets, which is a local derby. And again, it was a freak accident. I jumped in the air to take a high ball. And then somebody jumped in the air as well. And because I was a lot taller and I jumped quite high as well, the person took my legs and I hit my head on the floor. And yeah, I was just out cold. And then, I came off the pitch and it took me a while to recover from that. And I thought that's my fourth one in X amount of months. I know it was over a year. And I just decided then my contract was coming up at the end of the year as well. And I just thought, right, I'm going to take a year out. I know because if I'm in this environment, I'd want to play in 8 months' time or whatever. So I moved to London. I got away from the environment and just trying to recover. And then it was about 8-9 months later after that incident, I was thinking, right, see if I can come back. I'm going to start. Obviously, at the time, I was doing fitness. I was staying in touch with the physios and whatnot, making sure everything was okay. And then I did a fitness event then to test myself 9 months in, and I just got a headache after that. And I had a headache for days as well. And I just thought, right, if I can't do a fitness event without getting any symptoms or symptom-free, then I'm going to, probably call it a day and just make that big decision to retire at 27. So, I decided to retire. And then luckily in that time, then I did have a job in London, which is a gym called Manor. So I was head coach there at that time. But it was a big decision. It was a tough one, but I think it helped me getting out to the environment to realize how important health is and how much, how hard I found it trying to recover. And it was the best decision for me. And as I said, I was lucky that, I was stupid, not saying anything, but I was lucky to come out of it. At the moment, touch wood, I'm feeling good. I feel as if I'm fully recovered. So again, I'm lucky to come out of it that way. But it was a big learning curve.
How long was it from the first time you got badly hit until you started talking? How long was that?
It must have been 4 or 5 weeks because it was after Christmas. And my plan was I hoped to go on the summer tour with Wales, and they were going to I think they were going to Tonga or Samoa, and they kind of on the summer tours they kind of they rest some of the big names and they pick some of the youngsters. So I thought, right, this is my chance. I can push for this. So I just got into the team as well. So I was like, right, I just made the cut. I'm in the first 15 week in, week out. So I need to hold this position. And I had a knock to the head. So I was just like, I keep going and keep pushing. And every week it was just getting worse and worse. And I was just making, I was just hitting it, like making a tackle. And I was just like days just making a tackle. And then I just remember just breaking down to the physio in the physio room, just saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I can't do it." And I was highly emotional.
Mm.
And then my symptoms just were getting worse and worse, and to a point where I just couldn't. Well, my performance just dropped massively. So, but then it's tough just because I feel now looking back, it's like, what was I doing? But at the time, I was just caught in that moment of just more, see how much,
Mm.
because it's quite easy. Well, it's obviously easy to hide. It's like the mental health side of things, isn't it? It's easy to just push down deep and just keep going, and that rugby mentality as well. It's just get up and get on with it. Get up if even if you're injured in rugby, you just get up and fill the line until the physio sees you.
Mm.
So it was a tough period, a big learning curve. And as I said, I'm glad I got out of it like as well as I did. So on to the next thing.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much longer. I know it's like you said, it's a difficult topic for you, but maybe as a piece of advice that can be valuable for people listening, you know, players who are still on the field. Do you feel like had you spoken earlier, maybe you wouldn't have had to go through so much? And you obviously hindsight is always we don't really know, but maybe, you know, if you have a message for players who are still out there, still playing, and it happens. I mean, I remember this season, I don't think we had any, but last season we had a couple instances where someone, dove in a little low and hit a knee with his head and was called out for 5 or 10 seconds. And then he gets back up, and especially at the amateur level, we don't have concussion protocols. We don't have all those things. And obviously, I was lucky enough to take a first aid course last year through World Rugby. And it's clear from the doc, he said, if you're not in a league that has concussion protocols, at the first sign or even suspicion of a concussion, like if someone can't walk straight standing up from a tackle, that's enough to take them off the pitch, and then do the necessary things afterwards to keep them safe. So from your lived experience, what advice would you have for players who are sometimes in those situations, but they might just want to get to the end of the game? They might not want to, maybe it's a tight race and they don't want to lose that one. What would you say to these people?
Yeah, that's the hard part, because I always thought, right, one more, give it a go. And it's just like, we all think especially rugby players, we all think we're indestructible and it won't happen to me and whatnot. So that's what kind of like eats me up sometimes, is thinking, oh shit, if I would have said something straight away, I would have been in a totally different situation. But a few months ago, I was speaking to a youngster, and I kind of like, because as soon as I finished rugby, I stayed away from rugby for the year and a half. I just did peer personal training. And then literally it was 6 months ago, I spoke to a youngster who did exactly the same as me, but he ended up in a lot worse position. It was exactly the same. He ended up in a worse position regarding like depression and like suicide thoughts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that to me, I was like, shit. And then I asked him, then he's fully recovered now. I asked him, what were your friends thinking? And have you told your friends, the rugby players? And they were like, yeah, I've spoke to them, but they kind of just didn't take much notice of it. They just thought it was just a one-off thing. And after him saying that to me, I just thought, I think I need to try and get people to be a lot more aware of just the cause and effect of it, and just saying something, how important it is, because we do have a lot of information out there. As soon as you say something, people are willing to help. It's just making sure you got to say something straight away. For example, if you do get a knock in an amateur game, tell the coaches, and the coaches need to be like wise enough to take you off straight away. It doesn't matter what it is, just take it off, because you can have delayed effects as well. For example, you could get a knock on the head, you could be fine. 10 minutes later, you could be in a world of in a different place. So so I've done a few little like courses and qualifications now on concussion, and I'm trying to like push it a little bit more, and trying to sort up some sort of like a chat with ex-players and whatnot, just showing the importance of communicating and how big it is, because it can end your career without you thinking too much about it.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, obviously for professional players, it can be a career ending injury, but for amateur players who have a life outside and a family and a job, it's not worth, sacrificing your health, and who knows how many years down the line that it can affect you. Like you said, all the mental health issues and depression, all those things are closely related to concussion problems. So like you said, it is really important to be vocal about those things, not let them just go by. It's not just a knock on the head. You're not gonna, be a tougher player for just standing up and keep on playing. Actually say something, and let's try and make a difference in that regard, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that sticks out with me, and I've like learned so much from it, is when I did like I told the physio, and then the next day, then I went into the my head coach Steve Tandy's office, and I went in to apologize to him to say sorry, and I explained everything, and he just said, "Oh mate, you're so brave." And I thought straight away, I was like, "Oh, is he saying I'm brave because I just like the rugby, the macho man, just got on with it and just." And then he said, "No, you're brave because you spoke up, you talked, and you shared your problem with me, and now we can help you." And then after him saying that, it stuck with me. Like I can see it as clear as day. Him telling me that, and that has just helped me so much. Just understand. I kind of took a step back and thought, "Oh shit, yeah, I kind of understand what you mean now." Because then I didn't tell my parents or my girlfriend at the time, didn't tell them that I was going through it, and I sat them to the side. And then after telling them, I felt as if a big weight had been lifted off my shoulders, because in my mind, I just thought they wanted me to get the best out of whatever I was doing, and that was their main aim. But then after speaking to them, the first thing they wanted is my health, and
Mhm.
that was their main priority. And I kind of had the blinkers on. I didn't fully understand that. And sharing just made me realize that people want to see you fully healthy and being yourself, rather than like getting a Welsh cap or whatever. Health is the main priority, and yeah, it just shows how important talking is.
Yeah, and so moving forward from concussions, and I think that's a very important topic as well, especially in the rugby world. Talk about honest conversations and having those with your teammates, with your coaches. There still is a lot of macho kind of. I'm not going to say anything, and I'm just going to bury whatever I have in my mind somewhere else, and not open up and not talk, because it's not the rugby thing to do. It's not the tough thing to do, but how important are those honest conversations? And again, beyond concussions, but being true to your teammates, being true to the coaching staff as well. What kind of role does that play in your mind in rugby in general as a sport?
Yeah, definitely. There is a time and a place to be obviously macho in rugby, but that's on the pitch and getting in there. And if you are injured, then being honest about it, not being stupid. But yeah, off the pitch is being honest. It gets people closer together as well. When you let someone in, then they can share that with you, and then you can be closer as a unit. And that's what a team's all about. It's just looking out for each other, looking after each other. And yeah, if you don't let anyone in, I don't think that can you can have the best unity, the best team. And one of my mates, Lloyd Ashley, is a professional rugby player for the Ospreys, and he's currently doing. He's the currently lead wellness and mental health officer for the Welsh Rugby Players Association, and he's just started that now in lockdown, and he's big on that, and he's doing a lot of great work for that. So he's definitely worth looking. I know the Irish Rugby Players Association do a lot as well,
Mhm.
because we always used to look up to their platform as how well they're doing in it and how we develop ours. So there's a lot being done in the elite sport. It's just being fed down now to the grassroots as well, because I bet back in the day, obviously, you used to go to the pub after, but I know grassroots, especially amateur level now, people have their game, they have one pint and they shoot, and you don't really get to speak anymore, because that social element of rugby is kind of changing slightly. So
Mhm.
again, it is important to talk as much as you can to your teammates and whatnot, and and especially the close teammates as well.
So transitioning now towards the second part of your sporting career as a coach now, how did you find that vocation? Is that something you were already interested in when you were a player? Did you kind of fall into it in the continuation of what you did before?
Yeah, so as a youngster, I always coached. So when I was about 19, I coached my local team when I was playing, and as well as that, when I was about 21, which was quite a good gig actually. I was coaching the Swansea University, so they're the same age as me. I was coaching them, so that was cool. And then the nights out after were quite good as well, being around people my age. So
Yeah.
that was good, especially uni. You know, it's like, but yeah, so that was great. And yeah, I helped then coach the Osprey 16. So it was the Ospreys Academy. I helped coach them. I was their backs coach. Helped with a couple of other guys. Yeah, and I've always loved coaching as growing up. And then as soon as I finished, yeah, I went just for some reason I went to do personal training because I had that qualification. I found a gym in London, which is Mana. And then I just stayed away from rugby then just because I kind of like, I just want to concentrate on something else, take my mind off. And because my contract finished straight away in May, I had to go and find a job in June, and I found the PT, and I just went straight into that, and yeah, I loved every minute of it. It was an amazing gym. It was the good thing about the gym is it was all ex-professional sports men at the time, so it was like MMA fighter, boxers, Muay Thai fighters, all in under one roof. So I didn't miss the camaraderie because we all had it there, and yeah, so yeah, I had an awesome time in Mana, and then the beginning of lockdown. So the beginning of lockdown, everything went virtually. Obviously, everyone turned into an online business, so that was all taken care of then. So it's got a lot easier to tap buttons, and then so I had a little bit of a spare time. So I decided then to do live skills and rugby like fitness session, skill session for kids to follow. And that started doing well. It was like a 30-minute skills and fitness session. And I started invited pro players on, the ones I knew. So people like Leah Halfpenny came on, James Hook, some of the Welsh greats. So that was awesome. And the kids loved that. And then it got to, what was it, August when the gym started opening, and I started finding it hard to juggle both because, the rugby took off, and I started my own business on the side with Reese Webb, who's a British Lion, and Ashley Beck, who's Welsh international. So we all came together and we started like a rugby academy, which is the badge you got on here, which is an online skills academy. So both of them, the gym opened, and then I had to make a decision then whether it was the gym or the rugby. And I just thought, well, it's not the right time to leave my job because I had a stable income, but I thought, I'm just going to go for it. And yeah, it's kind of been an awesome decision because I think I'm 8 weeks into it now, and yeah, I'm loving it. And just it's just been amazing transformation and just being outdoors, kicking a rugby ball around, and it's brought back some old memories. But I'm really enjoying it.
For you at this point in time, is there maybe a rugby skill that sticks out as being the most overlooked when it comes to what return it has on the work investment of getting better at this skill on your performance on the pitch as a rugby player?
I find as a kid I was always just taught to get a tennis ball and just catch that. If you can catch a tennis ball when you're running full belt or you're standing still, then you can catch anything. And my father used to just whack tennis balls at me, throw it up in the air. And I think, people have kind of gone away from that now, and just I feel as if everything's really complicated in the amateur level because obviously everything looks really pretty and cool on TV, and they must think everything's really complicated. But if you watch Nothing, what was the New Zealand program? All or Nothing. If you watch their training, everything's super basic, but done so well. And it looks really attractive then. So what I'm trying to do is just bring the basics back and just try and get people just to be good at the basics again. And then that knock-on effect, then doing the basics under a high speed just makes a massive difference. And that is the difference, doing things at speed, accuracy. So just the tennis ball work, being able to catch a tennis ball whilst running. If you're a fullback, being able to catch tennis ball after tennis ball in the air while jumping in the air, things like that. And then you slowly integrate the passing side of things then. And I feel as if the the basics do get overlooked because they're not pretty and they're not that fun. They're just repetition and perfect repetition every time. But yeah, trying to make them fun and simple for youngsters as well. Yeah, that's what I feel is the tennis ball stuff I used to find helped me a lot.
If you had to break down your vision of rugby skills with the ball, how do you kind of split things up and organize training around skills so that it's the most complete possible, so that you kind of check all the boxes and make sure that you hit on everything, whether it's throughout a training cycle, a week, or however you organize training over time? What are your kind of your main buckets within rugby skills training?
Doesn't matter what level of player I coach. I always go back to the basics of just catching the ball and just being able to hold the ball in one hand and grip the ball in one hand, and that grip strength. Because if you can grip that ball, then you can manipulate it any way. You can pass, you can catch, you can hand off. So it's just getting that basics right. You'd be surprised how many like adults who are like elite level can't just literally just hold the ball in one hand. And then that knock-on effect, if you see like the Fijian boys, they can just all day do that, and that's why their skill level is so high, as well as many other factors. But basic skills like that. So yeah, it doesn't matter who they are, and then I'll progress then depending on how good they are. If I see someone who's doing it really easy, then we can get into one-handed passing, bring the two-handed in, bring then into movement, passing and movement, and then just add in layers on like that. And then if needs be, I'll go back a step. And then just slowly bringing in. At the moment it's obviously hard because it's one-to-one in the UK, so I'm trying to find out different ways how I can use external cues, and I'm using a lot of visualization, which is something that kind of people are going away from again as well. It's just being able to get the hand on the ball and just in your mind just thinking somebody's going to come across me, somebody's sharing the pass and hit the post, but trying to visualize yourself in the game scenario just to give a little bit of an external cue. So it's just challenging at the moment, but yeah, I'm loving it. And I think the fact that adding those layers on rather than just starting so meeting people where they are and then just adding them on then to where they need to progress over time.
Yeah, so starting in a fairly controlled environment, not too much movement, get a hand on the ball, and then got to go from there and make it faster, make it more complicated, just a basic progression essentially for the skill of handling the ball. As a player yourself, did you use visualization? Was it a part of your training?
Yeah, I just used to think every time I was off the pitch and I was thinking about the game Saturday, I would just think about running that move in my mind. If I knew, say I was a 13, I was going to run that short line, I'd sit there in the change rooms or whatever, just thinking of myself hitting that line, making that break, and then offloading or scoring that try. So I think it was something that was really big and really pushed. I'm not sure if any other players used to think, but I used to do that quite often. It'd be interesting to see if it gets pushed a lot now, but I think it's a massive part of people's learning as well, because it's learning being off your feet. So it's off feet learning, and it's positive reinforcement as well. And not only do you kind of visualize making that break, but you also visualize like the sound of the crowd, and you get that good endorphin burst then. And I think it's something that people should start doing a lot more of. What about in your field? Do you see any, for example, any track athletes? I know a couple of 400-meter runners still do their visualizations, then they're going on the track. Any other sports you know of that do a lot of that?
I've heard high-level weightlifters talk about it quite a bit. I remember an interview with Ilya Ilin, who was the Olympic champion and just a monster in the 94 category, and then 105, I believe. But when he was talking about the Olympic record that he lifted, he said, the feel of the bar, the knurling, the chalk on his hands, the flashing from the cameras in the crowd, the sound of the crowd, the platform under his feet, the steps going up to the platform. He had visualized that thousands of times before he had to even do it. And so the day that he walked up on the platform to do it, it was just another rep, because he'd done it countless times already with, like you said, not just the skill in itself or the movement in itself, but everything around it, the environment, and just immersing himself into that, the feel of it. So that, because as you know, having played at the high level, being in training and then being on the pitch, you got the pressure of the competition, you have the crowd, you have the opponents, and there's a lot to manage just emotionally. And like you said, putting yourself mentally in those positions and practicing being there and getting comfortable with all those factors makes it a lot easier once you get there for real, and you have to, you know, deal with all of that, because essentially you've already, you know, played it at least a few times in your head, right?
Yeah, definitely. And when you were just talking about him then just having the different fields and whatnot, I kind of like, yeah, I can relate to that. You can feel everything: the grass, the smell, the line, the speed you're hitting now, the wind in your hair. It's it's so powerful. It's pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I do think it's underutilized a lot these days. I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people could benefit from it, especially athletes who maybe are not very, very confident with themselves. I think just, you know, playing that proverbial tape in your mind a bunch can help you just, you know, just get more, you know, be more reassured about your competencies, and you know you can do it, and it's just about now doing it and applying and getting the job done. And so I do think that getting the job done in your head a few times ahead of time will help you then once you're in the situation.
Have you talking about that? Do you reckon it's to do with obviously the like the kids growing up now is obviously totally different to what we were back then. We used to get outside and do a lot of visualizations. I remember going down the park and thinking I was in Lord of the Rings or something like that. Well, yeah. Do you see a big difference in obviously the kids growing up now and how they learn and how they practice a skill?
That's a great question. I think it's a hard one because obviously every kid has a different, you know, upbringing and a different environment at home. Some spend a lot of time outside, some don't. Some spend most of the time in front of a screen. But I mean, I've seen kids that spend time in front of screens that still have a great imagination. And like you said, you know, I like the parallel between imagination and visualization, because it is essentially you're making up a story in your head, but it's a specific one that you're making up in the case of visualization. But it does come to, you know, when we're talking about the details of the feel on the pitch and the wind and the grass, those details require almost it's right, a little bit of imagination to be able to go and find those details and then use them in your own you know, kind of visual practice. But I've used it a few times. I remember one time specifically with a client who he did some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and his name is Ricardo, in case you're listening, Ricardo. We were working on a squat at the time, and I remember we were working up to a certain weight, and at the end of that cycle, we wanted to hit that given weight for 10 reps. And he was not a big guy, and it was a good challenge for him at the time. And I remember this whole 4 or 6 week you know, training block leading up to, I said, every time every night you spend 5 minutes just sitting down and playing that squat in your head. Just look at it, feel the bar, like stand up, walk to the bar, do the thing, put it back, and just play it a few times like that. And I remember the day he hit it, I honestly do not think, and I'm obviously biased, but I don't think he would have hit it had he not done that, because there was just no doubt in his mind. You know, he just knew what he was there for, and he just did it. And I honestly don't think that he would have done it without that mental preparation, if you want to call it that, leading up to it.
Incredible. That's fair play. Awesome.
Follow-up question on the skill side. Do you have some favorite kicking drills or exercises for wingers, fullbacks to work on as a skill?
Yeah, so favorite game I used to like playing is a game of kick tennis. So literally the 10-meter lines, especially this is good for the backfield covering as well. So the 2 10-meter lines are the no-goes area, and your aim is to kick it to the 22 or 1 bounce into touch. And if you catch it on the full, then you can take a couple of steps forward. But if you let it bounce, then I think you have to go all the way back to your 22. I think it was. You go all the way back to your 22 and then send it from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great drill to do in a pair. So it's 2 of you in a pair, and you're working as a pendulum, then going forward and backwards. That was a really good game for the distance and high ball catching and being able to push the kick into the corner. So it was a good variation there. And as well as that is the dink. So we used to do exactly the same kick tennis, but over a rugby post. So using a 5 meter and a dead ball either side, and you'd be chipping it over, practicing your catch, take, and dink over. Those are the two drills I used to like doing as a game and a bit of fun. But yeah, kicking technique. A lot of wingers and 15s, they tend to kick for either distance and getting them into the 15. So putting a set of cones on the 10 meter, on the 22 and the try line, and trying to bounce that in there, and then you get a certain amount of points for that, and then the two another set of cones between 22 and 10. Again, you're aiming for those corners and just trying to push them into there. But as a 13, my kicking was, we used to call it the wiper. So it's literally a J shape. So I used to catch here and then out to the right-hand side, because usually I would send it to the right-hand corner. I'd be in a right footer. And that would be like third resort. I don't think I'm going to kick many. But getting that practice of just 2-to-1 from your J shape and practicing that coming around the corner and whipping it to the right-hand side. But yeah, it's just being specific to your position. Whereas, as I said, at 13 is that J shape. The wingers are all straight line, virtually straight line kicking as far as you can down the channel, trying to keep it inside that 5 meter to 50 meter channel. And then obviously 10s. Then I've got to master them all, the grubbers, everything. So people like Dan Bigger, who used to play with the Ospreys as well, used to spend all his time. And then you have Reece Webb then, who's the scrum half, used to stand there and just do box kicks and different variations there. So yeah, it's different variations for different positions, but wingers, we used to just spend our time just trying to kick straight and long. So
it seems like, and I might be mistaken, I haven't watched high level rugby consistently over the last few years, but it seems like, little chips over the top, over the defensive line are, more and more precise and very, quite lethal if they're applied properly, because you can literally just chip that ball right above everybody's head. And then if nobody's covering behind, you might have a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 afterwards with the last defender. And those seem to be pretty effective kicks when they're done properly. You obviously, like you said, the 10s, that's their jobs. Usually they need they need to see the space. They need to time it properly. They need the bounce to be perfect. But at high level, that usually happens quite often.
Yeah, just the big reason behind that is because the philosophy now defensively is dump and fan. So one person makes a tackle, you leave that person make the tackle, the dump, that person gets up in their feet, causes chaos in that ruck, and then you leave into it then. So you can have 14 players, 14, maybe 15 if he gets up, players on their feet, and then defensive line then as an attack. You're like, right, what can we do? So then that's when those little options come in, those little dinks, and that's where you practice a lot of. And not only the dinks, it's the collecting the ball as well. So we used to do a lot of catching the ball on the bounce, scooping it up with one hand, and those variations of catches. But yeah, those kicks are becoming a lot more, especially if you watch rugby league. They do a lot of those dinks in the 22 and a lot of the crossfield kicks, just because you can score a lot of points from that, because defenses now are so flat-lined and they're coming up so much pace, it's hard to turn and get back on that ball. And but yeah, they're definitely coming, and we used to practice them a lot.
What area of pro rugby do you see as having evolved the most in the last few years? What aspect of the game has been kind of transformed tremendously over the last few years?
I feel as if, to be honest, the forwards are getting a lot more athletic now. So, and their handling skills are becoming a lot better. So you're kind of getting a lot of centers and flankers evolved. Obviously, you get the second rows are big, but their skill level is like, I watched Torje the weekend. His skill level is incredible. Just catching the ball one hand. But again, I think it's just the defense. The defense are becoming so good now because they don't need to go in the ruck. They can just make a tackle, just get the play to the floor, everyone get up in a line, and it's just so hard to break down defenses these days. Just because I think it was Leinster. They literally, I think they had such a high percentage of phases where they had 15 players on their feet, and then they ended up winning the Pro 12. just because of that reason, they can just fill the field, dump and fan. They don't want the ball. They don't care about the ball.
Yeah.
They just care about you making a mistake, and then we'll get it, and we'll just kick to the corners. We'll keep the ball then. So they're not even looking to contest. They just look into getting that ball from your mistake. Kind of like, yeah, it's just, I think something has to happen there where the ruck needs to be a little bit more contestable, or I've listened to a few podcasts now where they spoke about maybe even changing the numbers in rugby, maybe having, because there was a 10-a-side tournament obviously in Bermuda, and that seemed to have gone really well. Whether we take another 2 players off and have 13 players on the pitch. So it's different thoughts process behind it, and how we can, just make it a little bit more entertaining, more tries. But yeah, it's interesting to think, like, all these thoughts are coming in. So
would you see those changes? Would you see those changes coming in fairly soon? Like, it seems like taking players off of the original 15 is a huge step. I mean, there has been a lot of changes in the rules, like you said, the scrum setup, the contesting at the ruck, at the breakdown. All those things have changed tremendously over the years. But it seems like taking a player or 2 off the pitch is a huge difference.
It'd be a change of culture and everything, and it would be a massive change. So a couple of players will lose their jobs, which would be mad. So and they obviously spoke about substitutions as well, taking subs off and having only 5 subs, because you obviously get 8, and that's virtually you'd have 6 forwards and 2 backs usually, and you'd have a brand new set of forwards. But it's difficult to say what would work. I like the idea maybe of having 5 subs, but having rolling subs, something like that, just to keep people fresh and just get them on. But then again, it's a pro and con to everything.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so because then they were speaking about having 5 subs because the contacts are so big, and the concussion element as well, so it's a tough one, and it's a tough decision whether they can. It's because they were speaking about as well the kicking game, having the 40-20 rule, whereas if you kick and you get into the 20 meters or that sort of thing, you can get the ball back. You get rewarded for a good kick, like they do in rugby league. But I think like in Test match cricket, I'm not sure if you're a cricket fan.
I don't follow. I can't say that I'm a fan, and I don't follow the sport.
So it was a sport 5-day cricket, and that was obviously the big thing. But then they started doing this game called 2020, which is 20 overs.
Yes.
And they thought that this 20-over game would ruin Test match cricket. But in actual fact, a couple of years on now, 2020 is super entertaining. But the players now are getting better, and they're scoring higher scores in the 5-day game. Right. So it's made the 5-day game more entertaining. So whether they've used that 10-a-side game now to get people to pass the ball, offload the ball more, and try and be a bit more attacking. So then hopefully then that will come into the 15-a-side. So maybe that way could help, help develop the 15-a-side a little bit more. But who knows?
It's interesting how those rules evolved, and they do impact the game. Like you said, there's a pro and con to every rule change that is implemented, and sometimes there's unintended consequences. I wanted to come back to the evolution of pro rugby. I've been watching quite a bit of Squidge Rugby on YouTube. He does some. He's a fantastic. He does some really, really good analyses of games, and from watching his stuff, I would have never noticed had I not watched all these videos that he's put up. But the level of knowledge of the opponent, of the teams, where they know how the other team behaves when they go in, they play them. They know who to look out for. Every person on the pitch, or at least some key players, have a key role to play against that specific team. You think about what was it, the final of the last World Cup, where one of the flankers, his only goal was to block 10. He had to be in his face all game long to just shut him down, and because he's a big scary dude, and there was many things going on in that game, obviously, but just the level of precision of, it's well beyond, your game is just to get the, play what you have to play in your position and then pass the ball and then do the thing. There's actually specific roles and specific strategies that are put in place that are based on the opponent, not just on you and who you have in your squad, but what is going on the other side. So what was the role for you of, video analyses and, how much info did you get about the opponent, the opposing team ahead of the game? And were you able to prepare for those situations at let's say the club level, or is that more prevalent in the international rugby scene?
Yeah, so analysis was massive. Literally, we had a laptop like this, and on the laptop, then say we were playing Leinster next week. We could watch Leinster's last 5 games, and then we click into the last 5 games, and I can click on the number 13. So I'd click on him, and I could watch all his clips of the last 5 games, and then from that, then I think it was on a Tuesday. Every Tuesday morning, we would do an analysis on everyone's in different groups. So we'd split off into different groups, and we'd be like, right, defense, attack, set piece, defense, set piece, attack. And we'd all come up with different strategies in the last 5 games, what went well, how did teams get beyond them, and what to look out for, who's the weak link, who's their strength. And yeah, there's a lot of analysis that went into it. Yeah, so for example, I would know my 13. I would know, right, he's missed like the last 5 games. He's missed 4 tackles on his right shoulder. So I would just think in my head, right, I'm gonna when I get the ball, I'm not gonna pass. I'm just gonna run at his left hand shoulder, and then last minute, I'm gonna just try and get on the outside of him and just test him out that way. It's a little bit easier for backs because we've got that chance to do one-on-one.
Yeah.
Whereas forwards, then they would look at the lineouts. Their lineout analysis is beyond. They used to, especially if you're a second row and you call the lineouts, gosh, they used to do so much analysis. Half the time I didn't know what they're doing. But yeah, it's crazy how much analysis does go into it. And you can even analyze, for example, amateur level, you can analyze in your own game for the first 10 minutes. You're going to have a go at your opposition number, and you're going to watch how he tackles and whatnot and see why he feels comfortable. And you can literally halfway through the game, we would do that. And we'd come together and we'd have a chat in a little huddle, be like, oh, their 13 is, I don't know, he's struggling to jam in on time, or is a gap there, next time hit me. So even though we would do the analysis before the game on the pitch, then we're still analyzing where we can break these teams. We wouldn't just come together and just chat shit. We'd actually come together and try and figure out different ways how to break down what move will work next, and where the spaces are. Yeah, that's something that was a big part of not just training, but games. And in the we used to call it the Sony suite, because we were sponsored by Sony.
Nice. Do you think it's that the video tool? Do you think that could be used more at the amateur level, even for the players themselves to look back on their own performance and see, look for areas of improvement?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can get obsessed with it sometimes when you watch too much footage, because I think at the amateur level, a lot of what they need to work on is themselves. So having the footage of their own stuff would be good, so they can work on what they need, and they can make goal settings from that then. And they can compare them with the elite level. For example, if I was a 13 amateur, I'd be looking at what Jonathan Davis is doing well, and then compare it with what I can work on and how I can get to that next level. Usually amateur level, they stand really flat and really narrow. So most probably they'll have to get deeper, and it feels really unnatural to get that deep. But getting that little bit extra depth, you can run on the ball a little bit more, you can see the picture more clearly. But you would only know that. It's like when you have a PT client and you tell them, oh, you're not hinging correctly. Right. And they're like, I'm definitely. But then you film them and you show them, they're like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. So it does. I think it would massively benefit individual analysis rather than, because with team analysis, so many things can go wrong. You can get obsessed with certain things. So, but yeah, an individual, I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Focus on yourself, see how you can improve, and then go from there. But I have a few rapid fire questions for you to finish here. So what's one thing that you're looking forward to seeing in the coming years, and whether it's in international rugby, pro rugby, or sports in general?
I'm interested to see the development of the rugby in the US because that's starting to take off now.
Mm.
I obviously sevens rugby is massive, obviously because it's in the Olympics. But yeah, they've started a new league over there, so and a lot of players are heading over there now from obviously New Zealand and whatnot. So I'm interested because obviously when US get involved, then that's when it gets big,
Mm.
and that's when they pump the money in. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens over there. And that would be my big thing I'm looking forward to.
That's a good point. The fact that if the U.S. takes it and runs with it, no pun intended, then we might see that rugby being a little bit bigger on the international stage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Uh, a player that you're keeping your eye on these days?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I always obviously look for the Welsh players, and it's quite cool. I coached some of the youngsters who are playing week in, week out now for my old team Ospreys, and I used to coach them when they were 16.
Mm.
And as a player now playing for Wales, Owen Watkins, and I coached him when he was 16 as well. So I like watching out for them and seeing how well they're doing, and it's pretty cool moment when you've been involved in sort of like a small part of someone's career,
Mm.
and watching them play and watching them play well. I think that's special.
What has been your favorite game in recent memory?
Oh, favorite game in recent memory. We went to play Newcastle away, and Newcastle is renowned for a good night out. And I remember half time we coming in, we were losing half time,
Mm.
and the coach gave us a ball in and whatnot, and then he went outside, and then the boys went, boys, if we lose this game, we can't go on the piss tonight. So make sure we win this game. This second half, there we were on fire. We scored a few. Yeah, we had a hell of a night then. So yeah, it was that was just memorable. Thinking half time, we all just chatted and thought, all right, if we lose this, we can't go on the piss now. Got to sort it out.
What would be a piece of advice for amateur rugby players who want to take their game to the next level?
Um, I think amateur level. I think it's just consistency. A lot of players just go Tuesday, Thursday, maybe do a beach weight session on a Wednesday or whatever. But it's just consistency and looking after your body. Again, whether that's going for a recovery session or doing a proper weights program that is tailored towards the rugby. Because some people are doing max squat all year round when they're playing week in, week out, and their bodies are just like, and they're wondering why their bodies are in such a tired place. So it's just doing the basics right and spending extra 10 minutes after a session when everyone's gone home to do your skills stuff. So your passing, your catching, your high ball takes. So all it takes is 10 minutes of extras at the end, and do that twice a week, and it all adds up then. So it's just spending some time doing the boring stuff.
You mentioned at the beginning of the conversation. Can you talk a little bit more about the online rugby academy and what you're doing with it and who it's tailored to?
Yeah, so I do myself, Reese Webb, and Ashley Beggs, called 912 Academy, and it's an online subscription, so they pay X amount. I think it's like £9 a month. And then they get 2 Zoom sessions. So that's why I just come off now. We're doing ball skills, throwing a tennis ball at the wall, catching, passing. And each week is different formats. So this week is catching and passing. Next month might be ruck position. And as well as that, they get a fitness session and they get a body weight program as well to do once a week. And then that's a monthly subscription. And we also hopefully we can start doing live sessions where face-to-face we'll do like a camp. But at the moment we're doing virtual camps every 6 weeks when kids are on holiday. So that's just a 1 week intense, like they train twice a day. We'd be like a pro athlete. You train twice a day. You do a skill session as well. And we get a nutritionist in. They can just talk about fundamentals of nutrition. And we do a live Q&A with a current Welsh or English or international player. And that's what we're doing at the moment. Yeah, it's just going well so far. It's just ticking over slowly, but it's building, which is nice.
That's awesome, man. I'll make sure to link all that in the podcast description for the listeners and the viewers. So if you're a rugby player, if you can't play rugby right now because of the restrictions, go check out the online academy that Ben and his colleagues have set up. It's really good stuff. Ben, where can we find you on social media?
Yes, so I am. So sorry, the academy is for 16 and under, so the kids, and then
Right.
anything older than that, they can come to my Instagram, which is just the rugby trainer on Instagram
Awesome.
or on Facebook. So yeah, Instagram I'm mostly involved in.
Thanks so much for coming on the call today and sharing all your experience with us.
No, thank you, and thanks for having me. Yeah, it was tough to come on, as I said.
Great pleasure. Talk soon, man.
Thanks.